You can't live by brisket and ribs alone. All right, maybe you can, but it's nice to have something sweet to go along with those, a nice dessert. And so today I'm going to show you how to make apple pie bread pudding with maple mascarpone cream. Now, bread pudding is one of the easiest desserts to throw together. You're basically making a custardy mixture of liquid and adding pieces of bread, leftover bread. I've got a bunch of leftover hot dog buns, 2 different kinds, and that's perfect for it. I'm not going to be able to use them soon, so they're either going to go bad or I'll have to freeze them. And even if they're just a little bit stale, that's perfect for bread pudding. Not moldy. You know, if it just starts to get a little bit stale, that's perfect because it's going to soak up all this liquid, all this moisture, and when we bake it, it's amazing. So let's go ahead and get our liquid ingredients ready first. We're going to start with a cup of half and half. If you don't have half and half, you can use milk. There's no problem with that. I like using half and half because it is just a little bit richer. We're going to add 2 eggs that have been beaten, half a teaspoon of vanilla, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt, half a cup of table sugar, white cane sugar, and half a cup of brown sugar. And we're just going to mix this together. Now, after we finish mixing this and we add our bread pieces, if it seems like it's too dry, you can just add more half and half, more milk, just to give it that moisture. Bread pudding is one of those things that's a little bit inexact. You don't have to be right on the money with all your measurements. If you need to add more for more moisture, no problem. If it's too moist, add a little more bread. Now let's get our bread ready. So as I mentioned, here it is, a whole bunch of leftover hot dog buns. I just couldn't use these. We had a gathering and didn't end up needing all of them, so they're going to become a great dessert. So we're just going to take these, break them open, tear it into pieces. Nothing exact about it. Just break everything into pieces. That's why I love bread pudding like this. You just tear everything. And you can make this out on the grill, on the smoker. I'm going to be doing it in the oven today. We're going to be going at 350 degrees for probably 20 to 30 minutes. But you can do it out on the smoker. You know, if you've got a 250 smoker going, you could throw this on there and it'll just take a little bit longer. You can do it on a pellet grill. You can do it on the Weber kettle. I've made bread pudding in my electric smoker. I've made bread pudding in my Dutch oven on the fire pit. And if I end up here with too much for the cast iron pie pan I'm going to be using, I've got another pie pan I can use. Make a second little batch. Because I am going to be baking this in a pie pan. Because we're calling it apple pie bread pudding, I figured, why not give it a little bit of the look? And some of these I can feel are just starting to get a little bit stale, which is perfect. There we go. Let's start building our bread pudding. Now we're just going to start adding our bread in here, mixing it up, letting all this moisture soak in. Get in there and start stirring. And if you have any big pieces and you want to break them up, go ahead. One of the things I like to do once it gets pretty well absorbed is get in there with my hands and just rip everything, smush everything together, make sure all that liquid's been absorbed. Still got some more bread to add here, and so I'm going to be adding some more half and half too. I'm going to start by maybe another 1/4 cup. And we'll just keep mixing for a bit here. I've switched my hands now so I can get down in there. Make sure everybody's getting soaked. Squish that together. When you feel that, you want to make sure that nothing feels dry. You want it to be squishy. Now to this, I'm going to add 2 large Granny Smith apples. These apples I peeled, I cored, I sliced them up, and I stewed them in about a 1/4 cup of water with a teaspoon of cinnamon. And all I did was keep them on a low heat for about 20 minutes until they were soft, not mushy. We're not trying to make applesauce here. We're just sort of trying to soften them before they get into the baking process. We're going to get those in there. And I did drain the excess liquid off of those too, but there's plenty of moisture in them. All right, this is looking good, but I'm gonna let it sit here for about 10 minutes just to absorb that moisture. At the end of that time, I'll check it, and if we need to add more half and half, we'll go ahead and do that. And then we'll go ahead and get it into our pie pan. And from the looks of the amount here, it's probably gonna be 2 pie pans. All right, this has been sitting here for 10 minutes. Let's just kind of give this a, I don't know if you're gonna hear that squish. That's the sound you want. Nice squishy sound. All right, let's start filling our pie pans. So here I've got my cast iron pie pan. It's a little bit larger than a standard pie pan, but that's all right. And I just wanna go ahead and I want to grease the inside of this with butter and get a good coating of it. I'm gonna give it a nice coating in here. Even if it looks excessive, it's not. This will help that bread pudding release when we want to get it out of there. Now we fill with our apple pie bread pudding mixture. I'm going to really smash it in there. Get everything compressed. You don't want too many voids. Now before this goes in the oven, I want to put a little bit of brown sugar on the top. Just sprinkle it around. Because as I say, whenever I make bread pudding, it's not sweet enough. Already has what, a whole cup of sugar in it? Yeah, this is not a low-calorie dessert. And when it's all done, we're actually going to be topping it with some other things, but not until it is out of the oven and starting to cool. So that was maybe, I don't know, 3 tablespoons of brown sugar that I just sprinkled across the top. I'm gonna go ahead and fill that other secondary pie pan, see how much I can get into that. And then we're gonna get this in the oven at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. All right, we've been going 20 minutes. Let's go ahead and check our apple pie bread pudding. Ah, looking good. Really, I just want to check and feel the consistency there. Bread pudding shouldn't be super solid, but I want less of the batter, the dough, whatever you want to call it, sticking. So we're going to go another 10 minutes. So remember on these, a little bit of batter sticking is fine. Oh, that looks good. Just a little bit, not much. All right, let's get these out of here, and we're gonna put a little bit of topping on this while it cools. So what I wanna do is I'm going to top this apple pie bread pudding with some candied pecans while it's still warm. And also, with those candied pecans, we're gonna put some fresh raspberries. Put as many as you want. Okay, that's looking good to me. I'm gonna let that cool for at least 30 minutes. And while that's cooling, we're gonna make our maple mascarpone cream. So I've got my stand mixer here. You can use a hand mixer. If you're really strong, you could probably even do this with a whisk, but I wouldn't recommend it. So for this maple mascarpone cream, we're gonna start with half a cup of mascarpone cheese. Next comes half a cup of whipping cream. Half a teaspoon of vanilla. 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar. And 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. I'm using a dark maple syrup from Woodlife Ranch. You can use any sort of maple syrup you want. So I'm just gonna eyeball this about 2 tablespoons. 1, 2. Get our mixer in position here. And we're gonna start off slow, and what we're really looking for is like a stiff whipped cream. All right, we're gonna speed this up a bit. All right, let's get in here. And so as you can see, this is like very, very stiff. It's sticking to the spoon. Let's see. Oh, that is good. All right, I'm gonna take this out of the bowl, put it in a container in the refrigerator for about 20 minutes to really chill down. By the time this is chilled, our apple pie bread pudding should be cooled down enough. And we're gonna get a slice of that, put some of this maple mascarpone cream on top, and have a taste. All right, here we have our apple pie bread pudding. The cast iron is still pretty warm. Cast iron will retain heat, but I don't wanna let this go ice cold. I think it's nice to serve it just slightly warm. Well, let's go ahead and see if we can actually cut a slice of this apple pie bread pudding. So I'm going to cut along here. Let's see if we can cut a right here. See if we can get under there. Oh yeah. Now let's get some of our maple mascarpone cream on here. Oh yes. Nice dollop on top here. Maybe just a little bit more, because why not, right? Let's finish it off with a pinch of cinnamon on top. And there we go, our apple pie bread pudding with maple mascarpone cream. This is looking delicious. It's not brisket or ribs, but it's gonna be a fine dessert, so it is time to taste. So yeah, let's dive in here. I'm just gonna turn this a little bit so I can get a good spoonful. Yeah, I'm using a spoon for this. I wanna get everything. I don't wanna lose anything here. Oh, here we go. Bread pudding is one of my favorite desserts, no matter who makes it, where I get it, whether it's a fancy restaurant or out in the backyard at the grill. It always delivers. And you can change up the flavors so easily. Right here, I just turned it into an apple pie bread pudding by adding some stewed apples with a little bit of cinnamon. You could do a bacon bread pudding. I've done that. You could do a bourbon bread pudding. I've done that. The possibilities are endless here. And this maple mascarpone cream, it is to die for. So if you're like me and you like to do your cooking mostly outside at the grill or the smoker, don't neglect the dessert. You can make it inside, you can make it outside, and very easily you can make it as terrific as this with any flavors you want. Just amazing.